Lacrosse community, my name's Ryan Berns. I'm the president of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to recognize the skills you gain from the sport, to ultimately live the life of your dreams. Today, we're so fortunate to be joined by an all-time women's lacrosse great, Kylie Ohlmiller. She's a four-time All-American at Stony Brook, professional women's lacrosse player right now, and one of the top coaches when we look at development of our young women. Kylie, thank you so much for joining us today. For our community that doesn't necessarily know your story, can you please share how you got involved in lacrosse and a little bit about your story about where you are today?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Super excited to be here and just talk on my favorite topic. That's lacrosse. But yeah, so how I got into lacrosse, I grew up on Long Island. I still live here now. Small town called Islip, New York. And myself and my younger sister, Taryn, we played sports all growing up. We got into lacrosse when I was in third grade. And, I immediately fell in love with lacrosse. I think it was like the mixture of, the fast pace of the game and how there was a bunch of different sports kind of combined into one sport on the field. You have aspects of basketball, aspects of soccer, et cetera, into lacrosse. And I also fell in love with it sounds silly, but the fact that it was so frustrating at first, right? When you first pick up a lacrosse stick, it's not an easy sport, right? You can't just pick one up and just go out there and have the best game of your life. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of having the stick in your hand, a lot of, wall ball and a lot of that stuff. And I think I fell in love with the process and the journey of knowing that the more I had my stick in my hand, the better I was going to get and the more comfortable I was going to get at each practice and in each game. So that's my, introduction to the sport. And that's where I ultimately fell in love with it.
We spoke about this before. The idea that you love the process, I think, is so big. We look at successful individuals, regardless whether it's a sport or business, and it's those individuals that love getting better and love being in the trenches that ultimately reach success. Can you share a little bit more about what it was like to be in the trenches and how you became the best lacrosse player you could be?
Definitely. From a young age, just to go back to the point, I loved having my stick in my hands, and it's still something to this day that I have my stick in my hands every single day, whether it's because I'm training a girl or because I'm training myself, or ultimately I've always just loved it. So I think when you speak on some of the most successful athletes or successful people in life, right? It's because they're passionate about what they're doing. And that's why they spend so much time of their day making sure that they can get 1% better at that craft and at their passion every single day, so that it leads up to the next time when, you're out on the field or you're out in the business world, whatever it might be, you're succeeding to the best of your ability. So that was it for lacrosse for me. I think, I played a lot of, I played on the Long Island Yellow Jackets. That's a club program for 9 years. Got a lot of really awesome competition there. My team was stacked, a lot of really good, incredible, talented girls that ended up going to play a lot of really great D1 schools. And, that provided me a ton of competition at a young age, playing against great teams from all over the country. And it also provided me the opportunity to be able to play at the next level and in being recruited to go play at Stony Brook. So very grateful for my time with the Yellow Jackets, very grateful for my recruiting process and where it brought me, because yes, it was a lot of the, on-field stuff and a lot of that recruiting and a lot of those tournaments and things, but I always think back to the time off the field spent, where I had my stick in my hand on the beach in the summer with my sister, or, after a long volleyball practice or an early morning basketball practice throughout the year in high school. We'd always get out and get some shooting in or get some wall ball in, just because we loved it and because we missed having our sticks in our hands. So, I think it's that extra time and that extra work that we put in and continue to put in to this day that's helped me on the lacrosse field.
Having that passion and a strong foundation is critical for success. And Kylie, I'd love to hear, what's your pinnacle lacrosse moment that you have?
Oh, my pinnacle lacrosse moment. I have so many incredible moments, and, questions like these really have me thinking back on them. And I think that to answer your question, it's probably not the answer you're looking for, but I don't think my pinnacle has happened yet. So I don't think it's happened yet. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm still chasing after hopefully being able to play for a World Cup team for Team USA. Hopefully being able to do some great things in the lacrosse space. And I think I still have my peak to hit as a player. So I'm excited to see where that takes me.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's it. That's the best answer. I think it's the idea that you still have so much more to accomplish and that you have your sights set for something great, which demonstrates for everyone watching how important it is to have a vision and have it clearly defined. And that's something that you can chase and stay motivated around. Do you have any highlights then over your career or any lacrosse moments that really stick out to you as something that is important and is foundational for who you are today?
Definitely. And I think one comes from playing with my sister. We got to play all throughout high school, but we also got to play at Stony Brook together for 2 years and, just developing together. I think like a lot of that, again, going back to that time off the field and like behind the scenes when we were growing up, was able to be showcased on the biggest stage at Stony Brook, trying to chase after a national championship together. So that was definitely a high moment. That's a special moment. And then I think a lot of what we, accomplished together as a program at Stony Brook as well really hits home for me. I don't think I'd be sitting in front of you speaking about my personal lacrosse journey without my 4 years at Stony Brook and what, myself and all 30 other of us every single year, day in and day out, we battled together for each other. And we put Stony Brook on the map, and it was an exciting thing to be able to be a part of. And again, I don't think my lacrosse journey would be anywhere near as similar without my time at Stony Brook. So, a lot of those program record breaking wins or, program firsts for Stony Brook from my time there from 2014 to 2018. Those are moments that I think back on when you ask about foundational moments who make me who I am. I always go back to that time period.
I can imagine that has a big impact. And we spoke about when you made your choice to ultimately go to Stony Brook, it seemed like it was a good culture fit at the end of the day. And this conversation is really about leadership and culture. I'd love to hear a little bit more from you. And first, what does leadership mean to you? And then if you can dive into culture as well.
Yeah, I think leadership can mean something different to every person. So I love that question. And I think to me, it really is about, I think when we're younger, we grow up and we see leaders or we see captains or we see bosses and we think, oh, they're going to boss us around or, things like that. And I think that it's more so about leadership is more so about walking the walk, right? Not so much like talking the talk. It's more so about being the first one to show up at practice early, right? And get some extra like warm up reps, being the one who stays after practice, even if you had a really great practice, just to get some extra touches, right? And like those people will flock towards you. Doing the right thing on and off the field instead of just yelling at those who don't do the right thing. I think when I think about leadership, it's all about being the person or the pinnacle of the person that I want to be, the pinnacle of the teammate that I want to be, so that people around me can kind of flock towards me. And that's what I think can go into your second part of the question as well. That's going to create a great culture, because if you have the top dogs, right, you have your leaders doing the best, working towards being the best, doing the extra, doing right on and off the field as a lacrosse player, everyone's going to be doing that because they want to follow in their leader's lead. So when it comes to that, I think building a strong culture starts from the head down, and being able to keep each other involved in chasing after success and chasing after common goals together.
What's coming up for me is just integrity. You said doing the right things on and off the field, and that just really rings true of having a leader who's willing to make sacrifices, regardless what it is, for doing what is right and buying into that common goal. Can you share a little bit about your experience about how you had to make some choices to do the right things on and off the field?
Yeah, I think it again goes back to just like the extra work and again, like those early morning practices or those days where you might not have had your best game. I think when it comes to sacrifice, it comes to like I think back on my career at Stony Brook, I would be in my coach's office after every single game, whether we won by 20 and I had 15 points or whether we lost by 1 and we couldn't figure out what was going on. I was in the office trying to talk through my game, our game, what we could do better in the next upcoming week. And just trying to stay on the same page as like the coaching staff and the rest of the captains and the rest of the team. I think is so important because sometimes we can get caught up in success or get caught up in failure, either way. And we can get kind of just wrapped up in it and not necessarily focused on what's coming next, right? Being able to pull ourselves up off the floor if we did fail and continue on, or if we did succeed, checking it off and then going on to the next goal so that we can check off that next one. So I think that in a sense of sacrifice, sometimes that takes, as a lacrosse player, sometimes that takes paying a little bit of extra attention, putting a little bit more time into it. Maybe, you know, your friends are out there doing something else, but you know that this is important to you. So you're going to end up, you know, staying after and getting those extra reps. And I think that's really important.
And that's typically the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. It's a little bit of extra time. And that's how you do the 1% more time and time again. And the compound effect is huge. Ultimately, though, we talk about having that coach who's able to help pivot us, especially as we're young lacrosse players. It can be a very different time going to college for the first time, having agency control for yourself. But coaches along the way have a huge impact. When you are coaching girls now and trying to make them focus on the future, what are you telling them, and how do you tell those players what to do to play at that next level? What should they be doing?
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of what like we do at KO17 Lacrosse is just trying to put it in these girls' heads that it's yes, it's what you do on the fields, but also off the field to prepare yourself. So the mental game, right? Journaling, building those habits and being able to take self-criticism so that you can take outward criticism, be able to turn it into something positive. That's going to happen at the next level, right? And you're going to have to be able to be resilient and bounce back from it and be able to put your best effort out on the field, no matter what kind of outside forces are trying to bring you down. And I think when it comes to, there he is, when it comes to, you know, developing that and making sure that young girls are thinking about that next level, I also like to make sure that, and this is something that comes from a lot of the coaches that have mentored me, and I try to pass it along to the girls that I try to mentor now. And that's putting ourselves in pressure situations before the pressure situations come about, right? Like we know that games are going to be tough. We know that, you know, sometimes the game's going to be on the line. We're all going to make mistakes in a game at some point too. And it's going to be how we can like react to that. So when it comes to training, when it comes to, you know, life in general, as you're preparing for those game situations or preparing for the next level, try to find people around you who are going to challenge you. Try to find, you know, it within yourself to push yourself to do those 2 extra reps every time you do something. Or when you're not feeling so great and you're having like a really bad mood day, maybe you go out and you get like a whole bucket of shooting, right? Like a whole bucket of balls. That's what I like to do because sometimes it puts me in a better mood and it is able to help me kind of get through those tough spots. But yeah, I think it's all about providing those pressure situations before they come about so that you can get used to them in a sense and be able to power through.
So are creating those pressure situations what ultimately give you self-confidence that allows you to take that criticism, or can you say a little bit more on that?
Yeah, and I think you put that perfectly. I think that, sorry, just grabbing his treat. Yeah, I think that being able to, so for instance, like my trainer does a really great job at being able to recognize like, okay, Kylie knows that today is going to be a leg day and she knows how many sprints that she's about to do. She knows that I'm going to give her X, Y, and Z, and she looks like she is expecting it. So he switches the script on me, right? And he throws a curveball or he throws in a couple extra reps while I'm dead tired. And I think to put it to your point, right, when I go through that, and I might have been expecting a different situation, right? When I go through that and at the end of it, I get through it the same way I would have gotten through just kind of like walking through that normal workout that I was expecting. I turn back and I'm like, wow, okay, so maybe I can handle these challenges. Maybe I can handle something unexpected. And to your point, it kind of builds that self-confidence in a sense of like, okay, what's next? What else are you going to throw at me? And then when it comes to game time, it's like, okay, I've seen it all, throw it all at me, and I'm going to go at it head first.
I think ultimately that's a neat thing that coaches can do. They can put us in those high pressure situations, whether it's just fast movement, taking you a step above whatever you're comfortable with. And ultimately you gain that confidence that you can take on anything regardless of what it is. I think there's also something to be said about vision though with it, and saying, hey, I've already done this, or I've seen it be done. There's confidence in doing that. And I was listening to something on one of your pages about you visioning a dive and getting a goal and not getting in the crease. Can you share that story with us?
Yes, absolutely. This is funny. I was on a podcast earlier today and we were talking about visualization as well. So it feels familiar, but yeah, I think there was one instance that I had been, and I'm a big lax rat, so I watch lacrosse all the time, right? I'm watching film, I'm watching games when they're on. Again, always have my stick in my hand. And for me, if it's like having a tough day, that's what I go out and I do. I put my music in my headphones and I just blast music and I go shoot a bucket of balls. And that's how I get lost in the bucket of balls. But so yeah, when those instances are happening, I like to visualize certain plays out on the field. Otherwise I just feel like I'm kind of just going through the motions. I like to imagine situations. And I think that makes you a more creative lacrosse player when you are practicing and you're imagining situations. But to go back to the story that you're mentioning, from as long as I can remember, maybe since middle school, I had this like ongoing daydream or just like picture in my head of, kind of coming across the crease. Well, I did some sort of move, don't even know what the move was, but to finish the shot, I dove across the crease and in the air, I shot a behind the back shot. It went top corner. And then like on my way down, realized that I was going to be in the crease. So like as I hit the floor, I like started to somersault and like roll out of the crease so that I wasn't in it, and the goal counted. Now, fast forward however many years later, that's the goal that breaks the NCAA points record when I'm at Stony Brook. And I didn't realize it in the moment, of course, but when I looked back at it, I was like, why does that look so familiar? Why, like, first of all, why have I never done that? And second of all, like, why does that just look so familiar? I couldn't put my tongue on it until like maybe a couple months later. I was like, oh my goodness, that is what I've been visualizing as such a sick play, right? When I just like had this love for the game and I wanted to visualize myself being able to do something incredible because I put in all the practice to be able to do it. So that was a really cool full circle moment. I don't know how often that would happen in real life, but for me, that's the one out of body experience, I guess I could say.
That is so cool. And thanks for sharing that. So I was just blown away listening to the fact that you did that. And there's a local guy out here, Pat Harbison, who talked about the fact that he'd get a bucket of balls and he'd count 3, 2, and then he'd take the game-winning shot just as a kid. And he did that as a middle schooler or a high schooler. And I just think that visualization, that having fun, just loving the game is what allows you to do these just incredible plays. And we blow ourselves away.
Definitely.
Now, Kylie, I do have a question for you to shift gears a little bit because I'm really just intrigued in the app that you have and a little bit more about your coaching. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Definitely. Thank you for asking. I own a company, KO17 Lacrosse. We started right after I graduated college and just fell in love with the developmental side of the game, right? Being able to mentor these young girls on the field, yes, and being able to see something technically click in their head and then be able to like fix bad habits and be able to hit a shot or a trick that they've never hit before. Love that part of the game. And what we were able to do is build our database, our client base. And over the last couple of years, and in May of 2020 last year, we launched an app, a developmental app that now has all sorts of features on it. You can go on it as a coach, a player, a ref, a parent, anything, and just, get all the drills, all the access to me. We can train virtually, digitally from anywhere at any time. It's a really incredible community of people with a lot of really great features. It's a free app with subscription models. So just hoping to be able to grow that community as well. It's global right now, which is incredibly humbling to say, and just excited to continue to grow it.
That's so cool. Leaning into the technology side of things. I mean, being able to do a Zoom and be able to have a conversation here in Arizona and you on the East Coast, and it sounds like you're global as well. Really, really impressive, and appreciate you taking the time to be on here and sharing what you're up to.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I can tell you're a lax rat as well. So I'll talk about lacrosse any day, all day long. So I appreciate you having me, allowing me to share my story. And everybody, thank you for watching.
Awesome, Kylie. Just one last thing. Is there anything else you'd like to share or you think that our community could benefit out of from lacrosse side, leadership side, culture side?
No, I think my last closing words would be just to keep dreaming on, something that I say a lot, but put those goals and those visions in your head, and they will come true with the right amount of hard work and dedication to it. So thank you again for listening.
Kylie, thank you so much. Dream on.
Yes, you too.